Here we are, into spring, although sometimes the temperatures may not feel like it. Here in my Zone 5B garden, this is a really kind of a fickle time of year. The temperatures are up, the temperatures are down. Anything can happen here for the next month or so. But this is a good time to do an essential garden task that is best done when things are still dormant, and there's not a lot of time for that. I'm talking about tree pruning. Now, if you have spring flowering trees, like these crab apples behind me, which were here when we move in, and they're beautiful in the spring, full flower, love the smell, and of course it all produces berries. But there are times of year where it's okay to prune, and that's if something is dead, diseased, dying, maybe damaged by the storm. Now, this is what happened with this tree back here. And you can see that it has some storm damage, and there are some limbs that have not recovered from the winter as a result of it. So those limbs can come out really any time of year. But otherwise, if something is spring flowering, wait until the flower. If you're just talking about a cosmetic prune, wait until it flowers, then prune it right afterwards. So that's a pretty basic rule, and there are exceptions, of course. But when you're talking about Japanese maples, that can be a little intimidating. But this is a good time of year, while it's still dormant, to selectively prune a Japanese maple. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is the Japanese maple that I need to prune. Now, it's a beautiful colored shrub, which has outgrown its original form. This could be a burning bush from a distance. The problem is that there is no direction. It has become overgrown. The branches hang down to the ground, and it is largely because there is no uniform direction to this shrub anymore, as you can see from the lines here. Now, what I want to do is just clean up some of the crossing branches that go against the original flow of the shrub. Now, because of a Japanese maple, it's going to have some crossing branches, but if there is too much, they tend to shade out and then kill some of the lower branches and some of the color. So I want to return some of the original form to this shrub, which you can see best when it's dormant. The time to prune this is when it's dormant, before it starts to bud out, because that way you can see the structure. You can see the congestion in this shrub that just needs some cleaning out. And in general, best to prune when dormant, and really no more than a third of the shrub, unless there has been storm damage or, in this case, wind damage. This shrub grew irregularly because of the ash tree that was here, which was taken out in the fall. So now, to begin with, I did a lot of assessing, just staring at it, trying to find the original direction of where these branches are supposed to go to give it that classic Japanese maple shape. It needs to be graceful. It needs to have at least 3 major stems going in a direction that is easy to follow, so that even from a distance you can tell this is a Japanese maple. It won't be confused for a burning bush. So moving slowly here, I took out first one that was damaged because of excessive rubbing caused by the wind, and then other branches that were damaged by the weight and the shading out of any sun because it was crossing and overgrown. It's best to take a clipping with sharp, clean tools and then stand back and see how it looks. And then work slowly, because as the classic line goes, it's easy to take off but impossible to put back on. So no more than a third of the shrub should be pruned at any given time. And again, it's best to prune this Japanese maple right now for my Zone 5B garden because everything is still dormant. We might have some warm days, and we're into spring now, but if things haven't budded out, particularly a Japanese maple, it can be safe to prune if you don't overdo it. And I think the overall process looks pretty good. I'm happy with how I ended up here. I can see some clear definition. I've retained its previous shape, its original intent, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this branches out. I'll be sure to give you an update. Well, that's it for this edition of Milkweeds and Roses. I want to thank you for joining me in spring, and our work has really just begun. But I'm looking forward to it. The excitement, the possibility of what can be. New life coming back to the garden, the wildlife, the creatures, just the time outside, everything green and growing. I hope you do too. See you soon. Thanks again for joining me.